At the end of each shooting season, more than 1 million released pheasant hens will try to breed. Most will not succeed. We're in Norfolk on the Stradstead estate to take a closer look at the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust Released Pheasant Appeal.
What we're trying to do is to encourage released pheasants to breed better in the wild. We're not trying to discourage releasing. Released pheasant shooting provides many benefits for the countryside. But what we are trying to do is to encourage released pheasants to contribute to the wild stock.
Now for the science bit. The GWCT is employing the latest radio tracking technology.
What we're doing is we're using radio telemetry, and what that involves is attaching small radio transmitters around the necks of a sample of hen pheasants. And by doing that, we can then follow the birds closely through the spring. One of the key things that we're interested in doing this spring with these released pheasants is to try and find, exactly where they're nesting, when they're nesting, how successful the nests are, because then that will give us vital clues as to how we can better manage them in the future and provide them with what they need to help them breed better. This programme of research, which we're just started at the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust, is really trying to get to the bottom of why released pheasants don't breed as well as wild pheasants. We estimate that there's about 1 to 1.5 million hen pheasants which survive the shooting season and which are present on the ground on shoots across the country on the 1st of February. But what our research has shown so far is that the majority of those birds really don't breed very well. They don't produce a clutch of chicks which they can then brood and nurture through the summer. And we want to try to get to the bottom of why that is. We estimate that about 10% of the pheasants in the countryside are actually wild pheasants. And those wild pheasants, they tend to have a much higher breeding success than your bulk standard released bird. But what we have found is that a released pheasant which manages to survive a whole year in the wild, and as it comes into its second breeding season, we find that those birds actually do really breed quite well. They may not have been able to successfully rear a brood of chicks in their first year, but coming to that second year, they seem to do reasonably well. What our research has shown us so far is that there are some sort of vital key elements which released pheasants need. One is to ensure that the birds are in good condition as they come into the nesting season. We need to make sure that that the feeders, to move those to the edges of the wood in the spring. That's where the cock pheasants are setting up their territories and looking after their harems of hens.
I do feel that the future, so far as game is concerned, is actually preserving what one's got and managing it as best one possibly can. I've followed Roger's reports in the Game Conservancy annuals, and I've been very impressed by what he's doing, so I needed no persuading. We've seen considerable increase in the number of stock that has in fact survived during the course of last season and is running around and hopefully about to nest for this coming season.
This is a pioneering move. In the past at the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust, we have looked into the issues of why released pheasants tend not to breed very well, but what we have usually done is just focused on one particular issue, be it what are the benefits of spring feeding, or how important is the role of predation, or is there adequate nesting habitat, or is there sufficient brood rearing habitat for young chicks. But what we're trying to do in this programme of research is to bring all those key aspects together. And my busy time in terms of looking after game birds starts in the spring, following through the breeding season, and really that's when the gamekeeper's year should start. Is finding out what the birds need at the end of the shooting season, be that food or be that cover.
So what can owner and gamekeeper do to improve the situation?
Simple procedures to start with is to keep the vermin down. That's the be-all and end-all of game management, is to keep the vermin down. But also it's very important to keep feeding your stock like you would if you've got a suckler herd or something, they're all about to calve. I mean, don't stop feeding at the end of January because it's the end of the shooting season. Keep feeding right through to May, June, when they're actually laying and bringing their young on.
You can even make life better for your birds by not working so hard.
A lot of shoots, they will mow down, particularly maize cover strips, very soon after the end of the shooting season, but we would actually recommend leaving that for a month or two, because what we have identified is that February and March are actually very important months for raptor predation, particularly of partridges. So if you can leave this over winter residual cover perhaps until the end of March, then that will really benefit partridges which are forming pairs at this time of year.
And another interesting thing that we're now doing is we are actually bringing in grit and putting it around the feeders, so they've got an opportunity to go for the grit. Because I've noticed that we lose a lot of birds on the roadside here because we're quartered at Stradsit by major main roads. A lot of birds have been killed in previous years, and now by giving the grit in the middle, the birds don't actually go to the roadside and get killed.
GunsOnPegs.com is an enthusiastic supporter of the scheme.
I've been a life member of the GWCT for the last 25 years, and when we saw that the work that they were doing for the Released Pheasant appeal needed some further support, we thought what a great opportunity to encourage people to actually support a project which is vital for the sustainability of pheasant shooting. And the idea of getting more wild birds over the guns rather than reared ones seemed to actually be a very good idea. And through our field sports club, we have now donate 50% of the proceeds for every member who takes out our insurance and so on back to the GWCT for funding this particular project. And we're delighted to say that we've been able to provide money for the GWCT to provide all the radio trackers.
When we're out in the field, we first of all see if we can pick up a signal, and then we try and hone down in it by getting a sort of general direction of the bird, and then we can gradually move towards the bird. And the beauty of these is that we can track the bird without really disturbing it. All these fixes get inputted into some computer software which enables us to analyse the area which the bird is using. It's called the home range, and also it will enable us to determine the habitat preferences of the bird. Sorry, I was just going to look at that hen. It might have a tag on it. There's a hen pheasant which has just walked out from the woodland edge here, moving out into the field to feed, and you can see that it has one of these radio transmitters around its neck. You can just about see it, and you can see that it fits quite snugly on the base of the neck, and then the aerial points out along the back of the hen.
Every radio track is costing £150, and we've done over 50 here, and obviously we're looking to increase that as we go forward and do other studies elsewhere in the country next season. We're learning a lot by the work that was done last season plus this season, and we're starting now to see some benefits. And the benefits certainly here at Stradsit is fantastic. We can see far more birds that are actually out here looking healthy at this time of year. Here we are just at the beginning of April. Perfect.